fucking love my creamy.
We're kind of like, I don't want to say the female real bodybuilding podcast, but that's exactly what we are. So there's no like hardcore core intro. There's like, hey, we're gonna introduce you. Like when it pops
Yeah.
up, it's just we're tits ablazing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've watched listen because it's on Spotify. So like sometimes I'm listening, sometimes I'm
Gotcha.
watching quite a few. And actually when you guys first started and you mentioned that it was like the women's version
Hmm.
of real bodybuilding podcast, bro chat, etc. I was like, okay, that sold me. I'm going to listen because honestly, it's one of those things where like you can only talk about this shit with other people in your life until they're like, I'm fucking tired of hearing about your bodybuilding stuff. And you need people who get it and who you can chat with. So listening is just like listening to as if I'm like in a conversation with friends. So that's what sold me, by the way.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
I'm like, I'm gonna tell you a little bit of a background because it's like obviously like even though this like is our entire world and like it's big to us, it's so freaking small. And literally, I think I started following you a year or two ago, maybe even longer. But one of my friends who used to compete in bikini, she like reposted your vulnerability about how you looked in your off season, which I needed because I was in that point of
Yeah.
my off season where it was like my first real like bulk, if you will, and I was starting to feel a little bit more
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And here you are, a fucking IFBB pro in bikini, and you were transparent. And I was like, and obviously, again, you look fantastic, but
And it wasn't edited.
yeah, I mean, like I'm sure you remember the one that
I
like you
know.
posted, the real vulnerability one, and I
Yep.
was like, shit, if she's a professional and she's doing what she needs to do to get even better as a pro, I was like, I need to fucking settle down. Like, I need to
We'll say
settle the fuck
this.
down.
It got either that reaction or the reaction of like, she let herself go. What is she doing? I got messages after that that were like, why did your coach let you let yourself go? I was like, oh, okay, pop off. You do you.
Yeah.
And I honestly, when sometimes people say those things and it's not even anonymous, like they will send me a message and I like, that's why I don't go my requests. My requests are like, oh, gross, either nasty or rude. So anyways, I don't go in there because those type of messages come through and I'm like, how do you have the balls to say that attached to your profile, like your name? I just, people are so bold and I'm like, why do you care so much about my body? Like I don't even live in, like we don't live in the same state, we don't know each other, why do you care at all? But anyways, I'm glad that that resonated the way that it should have with you. And I'm also really happy you guys started the podcast and everything because I enjoy it. So I'm really honored to be on.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about kind of like how you got started into bodybuilding and also maybe talk about a little bit of your amateur journey and then even like turning pro? Because I think that's something that people would love to hear about from you. So that way it's again more authentic, not like by word
You
of
turned pro in 2019.
exactly.
Yeah. Every other intro in the world. Yeah, of course. So I love talking about this. I get chills every time I talk about it because it was it was dirty. I have done an obscene amount of shows in the pro league. And that's not to be like, oh, I've done so many shows. It's more just like I have been through the highs and been through the lows. And like if somebody has a question, I probably have an exterior experience to answer it with. So I started competing officially back in 2018. However, I was into lifting and counting macros pretty religiously before that. And I was overweight in college. So this started ages ago. So I was overweight, and most people were like, you weren't that overweight. I'm like, well, like I'm 5'2", so that was overweight. So
Yeah.
and I didn't feel good about it. And it wasn't a great place to be. So I was. And in 2015, when I was studying abroad in Barcelona, I decided to do, and don't hold this against me, the Kayla Itsness is like bikini body guide. It's like a shit ton of jumping. It's like
I did that.
run, you know what it
I
was.
did
It was,
that.
yes. If you
I did
came up
that.
in the industry around 2015, 2016, you know this. So I
Hmm.
started my fitness Instagram then because I was kind of like, I was like, oh, I'm embarrassed to like share this type of stuff on my personal one. And I needed the community. That's kind of like why I'm so big on it, is because I started from that to support me and feel like I was working towards something when everybody else around me was doing other things. And like I didn't feel supported. So I started with that back then and I lost a lot of weight, but at a certain point, there's only so many jumping jacks and like plyometrics you can do until you're like, I'm skinny fat and like I'm not at the body composition that I thought I was going to be at by the end of this. Yes, I was happy I lost weight, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. And I didn't feel the strength. Like I felt empowered, but I didn't feel or look the way that I wanted to by the end. So I looked up on YouTube actually, and I found a bunch of people who were competing in shows, but I didn't know that they were competing in shows at the time. Like they just posted like fitness workouts and things like that. I was like, oh, this is awesome, like lifting. So I just started lifting, counting macros. And then that carried into after college. And when I was in my first office job, I was doing all that. And somebody came up to me at the gym and was like, do you compete? I was like, what? I didn't know that the people I was following were like competitors. And I don't know how I didn't know that, but I was like, no, but they're like, you count your macros every day. Like I see you eating out of Tupperware, like you go to the gym. I see you every morning doing cardio. Like what do you do? And I was like, oh, this is for me. What do you mean? And I looked into it. I found it on Instagram, the whole community. And that's why it's like niche, but it's all out there if you want to dive into it. So dove into it and I was like, holy shit, these girls all do the things that I like to do. They totally, like, I would read their post and I was like, I feel like I'm talking to a friend. They totally get it, especially living in New York at the time where I was and working in an office. It was like all about happy hours, all these things. And I felt very on an island. And maybe it would have been different if I was like living in suburbs. I probably wouldn't feel as left out, but I felt very left out with everybody around my age group because I didn't do the things that they like to do. And sometimes it was like, oh, like kind of not that I was weird, but it was like, oh, I felt like I was an interesting, like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what do you do? And it almost feels like pretentious. And I'm like, okay, like I don't want to feel like not an animal in a zoo, but like kind of like an animal in a zoo. Like, oh, that's weird. Like, you don't want to go out. Like, oh, but they mask it as being like interested or like you're cool. Like, oh, that's so cool. Like, okay, like I don't know how to respond to that, but like awesome. So that whole thing happened. I was into it. I decided to like look into the world, and then I did a bunch of research. And this is a huge part of why I stuck with the same coach for so long, is because I researched and interviewed multiple coaches. I looked at their clients. I checked into like if anybody posted about them online, tags, like literally everything. And then I interviewed coaches or did like consultations with a few different coaches once I narrowed down the list. Because there were some where I was like, okay, that's definitely not for me. And I think that you can easily get that and avoid bad experiences. That's why whenever anybody asks me like where to start, like first do your research. Like don't even like, oh, I want to jump into it. Like, no, it's not time yet. Do your research first. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into until you understand like what's to come, like, and the type of coach you're working with, their methodologies, how they train their clients, like their approach, just like who they are as people and what they bring to the table. So started there, did a bunch of research, and I got on the call with Jamie, who's the head of Fit Body Fusion, and I kid you not, I felt like I like the conversation flowed from the first second we talked. And she was like, okay, so who do you want to be your coach? And at the time, the person that I found out about Fit Body Fusion from was Hannah DeVore. And she's like a pro from back in the day. She hasn't competed in a long time, but I knew her and I was like, oh, I want to work with her. But she was mainly just taking on lifestyle. So Jamie recommended my current coach, Shelby. I got on a call with her, everything flowed. And it was unbeknownst to me, and like this isn't something that I think a lot of people would like pair us together naturally, because I'm a very like bubbly, like this type of person usually, and she's very like I like no bullshit, doesn't sugarcoat shit. Like that is the type of person that I wanted to work with, because I will execute, and my personality might be different, but that's not what I was looking for in coach. Like I'm not looking for a best friend. That's it. And I think that that's where a lot of people fall into this pitfall. They're like, oh, I was so comfortable with them, and like I just loved it, and they just root me on, and I'm like, oh, maybe that works for you, and maybe that'll feel you to be your best. But I need somebody who, if I'm like going through a binge, which I have in the past, be like, I understand that this is hard, but you need to pull your shit together. Like, and then help support me through the bad times, not like negative, like just get back on plan, but like somebody who will speak the truth and then help me get through it, So there's a good balance. And I think that from that first call, I knew that she was right for me. And also she took a macro-based approach, which at the time I had been very familiar with macros. I didn't want to go into a meal plan. and I understood like what was required of me. I felt like what I just wanted was a guide, not necessarily someone to teach me all of the things, because there are also some of those coaches that are like, I'm going to educate you and like we're going to learn this together. I'm like, I just want you to give me things, I execute, and we keep rolling. So I know, okay, I'm totally rambling. So sorry about this. It's a long story, and clearly I'm like ADHD. But so we start working together, and I grew with her. I did like a recomp phase for like 4 months. And then we started prepping. And I did my first show out in Poughkeepsie, New York. It's a tiny show. It was called the Grand Prix. And at that point, I had like finally found people in New York who were into bodybuilding. Like I would go like an hour and a half out to Bev's and train there like once a week. It was incredible. I was like, wow, there is a community here. But again, that was also very old school. So like the things that I was doing, they're like macros. Like, what are those? Even the girls I met there. And it was interesting. But I also like posed with somebody out there. I got to know some of the people out there, etc. Competed in that first show. I got second place in open and second place in novice. And I honestly think that getting second place fuels you so much more than getting first place. And I think you guys actually have talked about this, that like your lessons and your losses, you learn so much more from them than being like getting right off the bat. Like Megan, you were like, I got first. So you just kept like everything was falling into place for you. And you just like kept going. And then you're like that first pro show, you're like, well, fuck, like this is different. I
Yeah.
think that like because I came up a little differently and I got that second, I was like, oh shit, you have to be better. Like you, and it's not that people who get first don't think that they have to be better. Don't get me wrong. And I know actually you were saying like that kind of feels like I have to stay on top, but I think that it kept me humble from the very beginning.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, shit. So I did a show 2 weeks later and I got overall novice there. And then I got first in my class, but I didn't get the full overall.
Mhm.
The girl who won the overall went pro like the week after though. So I was like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, okay. I'm like, I feel good. So my coach, and I didn't go to the national show because I was like, I want to end my season. I want to grow. And I just was at a point, it had been a while. So I took some time off to improve. I went to my first Arnold in 2019, which was like a whole experience. And I found like best friends there. Again, like as you can see, each time it was like community that helped like me grow and feel more involved in the sport and give me a better positive experience. So after Arnold, I was prepping at that point. I did a regional show where I came fourth. I had already been qualified, but I came in fourth. And again, that kept me real humble because
Yeah.
I was like shredded. Like I had great shape, but with the lighting that I had, that's another lesson I learned. With the lighting I had in my building or in my apartment, it was like a ring light and it blew out my physique. So you couldn't see the striations, you could just see my shape. And like looking at pictures, I didn't see anything and my coach didn't see anything. So once we met in person right before the show, she was like, holy fuck, like your quads are feathering, like what's happening? So we tried to like feed me in with that, with like keeping my waist tight, and that was like a whole experience. And of course for that show I'm in front of Sandy and I'm like,
Oh,
like Sandy is never gonna reward. Never. It's like getting in front of her and Becky and you're like, oh shit. So that show got fourth and they gave me the feedback. Obviously, literally Sandy was like, go get a burger between after prejudging. And again, this is not like I didn't eat like out there foods. I wasn't somebody who like gets Chipotle before show. Like that's not my style. And I was like, okay. So we did that. I just got like my body soaked it right up and I just looked harder and I was like, fuck. So I basically fattened up, added fat on my body from every national show moving forward. So I went to Junior Nats, I went to Universe, and then I went pro at USA's. But each show, it was like continuing to like pack on weight. And then when I got to Universe, Tyler judged and Steve DeVore actually judged as well. And they both were like, you look really good. I got in first call outs that time. And I had been 14th at Junior Nat. So I was in first call outs. I got fifth place. And they're like, honestly, all you have to do is just tighten up just a touch. And then you can get it at USA's. So went to USA's. And again, that was one where it was like a very last minute thing. And the only reason why I could go is because my best friend, now best friend, was also going. I met her at the Arnold's and she was on my team and she had a hotel room. I literally paid over $1,000 for the flight from New York to there. It was insane. And like when I tell you that like community is why I'm here today, like I would have never been able to go if she hadn't already had like a room. And it was a time show. So like I didn't have to pay for it. I just gave her like some money for like a fee.
Mhm.
It was this whole thing. And then I went pro at that show with my like coach there and with her there. And I kid you not, like still one of the best days of my entire life because I came in second, which I'll just say USA is you. Like I actually really like I love the fact that I feel like very underdog the whole time. Anyways, so I came in second and I there was this huge controversy at that show. Like the girl who was on the other side of splitting center was like already saying she was pro the night before. So I felt like I don't usually get into my head, but I felt like, oh my God, I didn't get it. Like
Mhm.
I was getting really into it and I like into my head and like overthinking everything. So that night I like was like, just get out of it. I had like a photo shoot with Toxic Angel bikinis the day before or the day of the second show. And I was like, let it go. You had a great show. You
Mhm.
never know what happens until it's over. If you don't get it, it's fine. But on stage, you can see like I'm genuinely surprised. I'm like, it happened. So like I start like sobbing uncontrollably when I realize I go up, I run off stage into Nicole, like my best friend's arms, and I'm like literally like this little like sobbing mess. And it was like the best day ever. So after that, I there's like a whole thing, but I decided with my boyfriend like leading up to this. It was a whole thing. That's another story for another day. But I was moving back to California from New York, and during that time, I started prepping for my very first pro show because I just wanted to get on stage, get feedback, and then like hop out. So I did two more shows that season, and then like called it quits and grew. And then in 2020, I did 9 shows, and it was points at the time. So at the very end, I made it to the Olympia and I came second three times. Once to Ashley. So like that kind of again, all that second place. I almost want to get like a necklace that like just has a 2 on it.
Yeah.
Or so I feel like my angel numbers are 222 because of these second places and it makes me feel keeps me humble and also like fuels my fire.
Mhm.
So then there was that whole thing of like coming second, feeling really good about making it to Olympia. And I was like, okay, I made it here. But that's why this season and last season when I competed in 2023, I'm like, I don't want to keep going necessarily just to make it to Olympia. Like I want to have a different experience next time I go. And I don't want to just completely run myself down. And like we all know this is bodybuilding, not body competing. So if I really want to show up and actually reach my potential and then like as a byproduct product be competitive, then I need to take time off. I need to grow my upper glutes.
Mhm.
So I think that's a lot of it. There's definitely more, obviously, of lessons and things to go into each season, but I've talked a lot. So I think I'm going to stop now. And then and we can go from there. But I'm really happy with how I've gone so far. And like I've also had a ton of ups and downs through like 2020 when I competed, and then my improvement season, which was 2 years, getting on stage in 23 and then 24, because during that time, a lot of it had to do with fixing my relationship with food and then also focusing on my career outside of bodybuilding. So I've talked a lot about that recently, but that's like a short-ish synopsis of my competition career. Um, yeah. Anyways,
Yeah. Right
what's
on.
up?
Right on. So was your longest improvement season just 2 years? Was it 2020 to what, 2023?
Yeah, so that was my longest improvement season if you don't count like the lifting that I did leading up to my very first competition.
Mhm.
Because leading up to my first competition, I was like lifting just
Sure.
normally at the gym. So yeah, that was my longest true improvement season.
Sure. And how much weight did you gain between like then and like the peak of your, I hate to say the word bulk because that just like rubs me wrong, but bulk,
Yeah.
lack of a better.
Um, I actually don't know the total weight. I know that I lost a significant amount. I would say that because I will say this towards the end, I traveled to Ireland with my boyfriend because that's where he's from. And we went to his hometown and I gained more weight at the end. Like
Yeah.
I to be quite honest, that part like didn't need to happen. I knew it didn't, but I also made the choice. I was like, I'm here and I'm going to do this as a cultural experience. And
Mhm.
I'm not going to do that, especially since it was my very first time meeting his friends and family. I'm not gonna be like, no, don't give me like the chips that you had at your childhood chipper. You know what I mean? Like, so I fully enjoyed myself. I would say that I honestly lost like 40 pounds leading into 2023, maybe. But what I did is I did a cleanup. So we prepped me and then we reversed me up a little bit and then went back in because I honestly did need to clean up. Like
Yeah.
I had I had a really good growing season, and I do think that it resulted in where I am today. But I think that a lot of it was weight I needed to put on to heal my relationship with food in addition to that, because it was not just like I'm growing and I'm focusing specifically on all of this. Like I needed to take a step back and be like, you are not your body. Like understand that you can eat things and through trial and error, not be like, I have to go all in every time.
Yeah.
Because honestly, at that point, because when you're so run down after like a total of 9 to 10 shows, you're like, I need food. Even if my macros were high, I felt like I needed and wanted more food than I could even like consume. So yeah, I would say that I definitely lost over 40 pounds in the prep for the prep.
I think that's really important because I know there's like things that coaches say where it's like, especially bikini competitors can't be above 20 pounds on
Oh,
stage weight. And it's like, while
yeah.
I understand the reasoning behind that when it comes to not wanting to have like, a 30, 40 week prep because you have to lose over 40, 50 pounds, I think it's really important to understand that 20 pounds might not be attainable, especially if you're still food focused.
Mhm.
And
Mm-hmm.
like, if you're 20 pounds, but all you can think about is like you're on your phone playing macro Tetris, like what can you put in your full day of eating to like feel
Yeah.
full? That, let's say an extra 5 pounds to get you free of that, I think
Yeah.
is well worth the reward rather than just being like, oh, we have to have like a 20-week outlook constantly.
100%. I could not agree more. And I also think that that advice totally makes sense for people that they're very top of the pro league
Mhm.
and they don't need to grow. Like, okay, yeah, then like keep it tight. You don't have to grow a ton. You're refining your body. And honestly, that is kind of the mindset I'm taking right now. Like, I'm going to keep it tight because I have a very specific area I need to grow. Because my feedback this year is like, everything else is on point. Just grow your upper outer glute and you can come in and do very well.
Mhm.
Right. So because that's the feedback, I'm like, all right, I know what I need to do to level up, and I'm going to because I'm in a surplus, but like more of like, and I don't like this word, like gaintain, like like uh, uh. But like I want to grow at a reasonable rate also so we can track my progress. And what I've noticed is actually when I keep it tighter at this point, I get better mind muscle connection. I have better
Mhm.
performance in the gym. So yes, for now, but I don't think that that is a blanket statement that you can apply to everybody, especially if you're first starting out. Like I have some clients because I coach, not a lot, but a small handful of clients, and I coach on the side where I'm like, you're just starting out, you're 18, you will need to grow. So like we're gonna get you into a surplus. Like we're gonna push it. Especially if someone's starting at like 103 pounds, like I'm sorry, you're not going to stay 10 pounds within that your entire improvement season. Otherwise, we're going to put you on stage at basically the same look that you had last time, you know? So I agree. And also in general, with anything in bodybuilding, like I don't think anything can be a blanket statement because everything's so personalized and like division wise too. Like, can you imagine wellness only put on 10 to 20 pounds?
Yeah.
Megan Laura, you guys are
Like, bitch,
fucked.
where?
Absolutely
just
not.
my
My
just one
right
leg.
ass cheek? Like what?
Yeah, just one
No.
leg. Gain it per leg, per limb.
Yeah. I had the same issue with one of my girls who's we're easing into prep now. She's bikini too, and she was comparing herself to a top Olympian. And she hasn't even been placing like at the regional level. And I'm the type of coach, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to improve. And yeah, maybe she got a little fluffier in her off
Mhm.
season, but she doesn't have the foundation built up yet to stay leaner.
Mhm.
Even
Yeah.
though like some pros, yeah, they may stay a little bit too lean. Like I love Francielle with wellness because
Oh my
she
gosh.
get a softer, fuller look, and she shows the process of that. But there are some wellness girls who stay fucking just shredded.
Yeah,
But I
that
think
scares me
people can,
actually.
yeah, I mean, like I stay relatively lean, not stage lean, but I
Yeah.
stay relatively lean. Like I posted something to my story this morning, and they were like, that's a 1 week of dieting. And I'm like, well, I mean, I wasn't like too
Far off. Yeah.
heavy to begin with, So
Yeah.
it is different for everybody. Like you said, no blanket statements.
Yeah. And I like I think that part of it too is that, and what at least what I've realized is it also like keeping it tight doesn't necessarily mean that you're not in a surplus. It just
Yeah.
means that you're not eating foods that are like bloating you and making you look
Mm.
fluffier than you actually
Mhm.
are. Because like
But
I swear, if some of the people who are eating their macros just switch to more nutrient dense whole foods, they would have a
I don't know.
completely different look. Like that's why the bodybuilding foods work. Like, you know, like
Mhm.
I think it's not necessarily those specific foods, but the fact that they are all like one nutrients, or like
Ingredient,
you're having
yeah.
chicken, it's basic. You're not having like chicken that's cooked and it's like from a restaurant and like doused in, even if it's not oil, like super high sodium can like throw you off, like stuff like that. So I completely agree, and that's why when I don't share my macros often, at least recently, but if I was eating the stuff that I see some people eating and still had these macros, I would look completely different.
Mhm.
Like I
Sure.
don't, I have a hard time with blanket statements in general throughout the entire industry. And like you were saying with Francielle, like I think the same thing about Jen Dory, like,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
also Lorley, like they have their show, they show that they get not fluffier, but they let themselves get fuller, and it's they still keep it tight, but they are clearly eating in a surplus when they're prepping or when they're not prepping. So I enjoy that. And I also respect the people who can stay closer. More power to them if they don't need to grow and their hormones are still on point and they're getting their blood work done.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I will say this, if you're doing that and you have no period and like that's an issue. So again, I respect it, but I also know that that's not necessarily my path. Like I'll keep it tight, but I'm not going to stay close to stage lane.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we always talk about that, everybody's definition of health when it comes to bodybuilding, because at the end of the day, this is an extreme sport. It's not healthy, no matter how healthy you do it.
Mhm.
It depends. Like, do you want a family? Do you want to improve your fertility and all of that? These things do have to be considered, especially if you want to go up the ranks, like
Mhm.
Olympia
Yeah.
level. So,
Yeah. I do have a question
Right.
for both Maya and Meg, since you guys are IFBB pros. Do you guys feel pressured to look a certain way or maybe even act a certain way on social media because of your pro status? Like, do you feel pressured to be something that you feel like you're authentically not?
mm, you can go first since you're the guest.
I see she's like,
Oh,
she's
I
thinking
was
about
gonna say you go
that.
first, but I will. Yeah, I'll go. I will say this. Like, I think that some of the comments that I got when I did gain weight, clearly people expected of me,
Mhm.
but I show up exactly how I am. So like, I know that there is pressure, but
Mhm.
like, if I want to gain weight, like that rando messaging me is not gonna change the way that I'm approaching it. Like, I'm sorry. I will say that there is like this like subcontext, like a couple of people, it was ages ago, but somebody on Reddit was like, I've always seen Maya as like a naive amateur pro. I was like, oh, okay. So and I think it was back when there was like some drama when like Reddit first started heating up, and I'm not even on there like a ton, but when I saw that I was like, obviously there is some people who are putting pressure on me and who are like, oh well, she didn't keep it tight, so like she doesn't know what she's doing, she's not a pro, so I will say that there's probably some, and I if you go on Reddit, it's just a dangerous place. There's probably, but I don't feel pressured by it, and I also have tried to like make Reddit a better place to be by like dropping in and being like, hi,
I'm a real
what's up?
person with feelings.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hello. And I'll like comment on ones where it's not even like it doesn't have anything to do with me. It doesn't, or like somebody has like a question about like, I don't know, something basic. Like, how do you weigh your food raw or cooked? I'll like drop it and be like, hey, this is what I do, just to like say, like, just show I'm there, and also like give advice from like the years of experience that we all have. So I would say there's definitely pressure, at least, but I don't let it get to me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say the same. Like, I mean, I had a little Reddit moment myself this year. This was my
No,
first
you have
one.
more Reddit moments than me. You have
That was
more.
my first one. I felt pretty proud of that. But a lot of people saying like, "Oh, you're not wellness. What is she doing? Wide ass clavicles. Get off the stage." I'm not even on the stage yet. Like, fucking calm down. But like they were trying to knock me when I wasn't even like trying it yet. But
Mhm.
now I feel I'm glad that I like just stayed the course, man, because
Yeah.
I think myself from the first time I started bodybuilding to now, I've been very authentic in my approach. I've always been very passionate about the sport. Um, and I just think I show up as an athlete should in a sport. I think recently this year, I've been more open with like my life outside of bodybuilding, and it's actually showed who I am as a person. I've showed my personality a lot more, so I can resonate with people a lot more. And I love that because as much as like bodybuilding is my life, it's at the end of the day, it's part of my life, you know?
Yep.
And I really do pride myself in that as well as I don't like to preach the whole balance thing, but there is a certain point of balance, you know, you got to love life in all of its
Mhm.
aspects though. But I don't feel too much pressure, honestly. I think for my pro debut, I did because a lot of people were hyping me up. They're like, "Oh, you're gonna place first. You're gonna place top five." And then I got 16th, and I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
And that was a big reality moment. And I hated bodybuilding. I was that person that was like, "Fuck this." Like I hung up the heels and all that stuff. And then now I'm back, and I'm like more passionate than ever. And I have no pressure going into my wellness debut next year. I feel so confident and I'm just gonna go into it like having fun because this has been like such a rewarding process. Like fuck everybody else, honestly. This is for me at the end of the day,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, I will say honestly, removing Reddit from my phone was like one of the best things. Like I'm a nobody too, and I would like sometimes comment on just like trying to help people out or give my 2 cents or whatever. But ever since deleting that app from my phone, my mental health is like through the roof now because a lot of that is just negativity, and people are allowed to have their own opinions. But when the opinions are
Yeah.
nasty, I don't want to read that shit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, listen, I already get enough hate on the anonymous Q&As that I post. Like I don't even need Reddit to have like other people's hate on other people that I don't even fucking know. You know what I'm saying?
I will say this, the one thing, and you know how it's like I'll drop it and be like, hello. I also will, if there's like a conversation about something, and I hate the fact that I do this because I'm just like a very, people will make fun of the fact that I'm like so positive and happy all the time, but I'll go in and be like, especially because it's attached to my name and be like, oh, I don't think so. Like just make like, and I think that we can, there's a way, like we can, it's what we make of it too, so like a girl that I know who's an NPC like posted her picture like a couple days out from this national show, and I was like, hey, like Joanna, you look really really good, best back shot I've seen, like, and obviously a lot of people were like hyping her up and stuff, but like going on there and then commenting positive or valuable things, I think has changed it for me, because then I got like somebody asked about like, oh, THC and bodybuilding, and I was like, I got this. I'm gonna go in and comment here. So I was like, hey, yeah, no, I actually use it, blah blah blah. Because the way that it was phrased was like, I don't understand how all these pros are talking about it when it's like you're you're talking about staying focused and like all this, but then you smoke a ton of weed. And I was like, well, first of all, it's not the way that I use it. I actually use it for mind muscle connection, get a little hit before, and also it helps with sleep or long bouts of cardio, yada yada. So like by educating instead of being like, ew, I hate it when all these pros just smoke weed. Like I'm like, well, change the conversation. Like this is actually how we use it. And I know a lot of people who use it just like me, because when you're that deep into prep and you're that freaking hungry, sometimes you need a little something, something to go to bed.
Mhm.
So like I've tried to, so I still have it on my phone, but I like don't have notifications. And then I'll go in sometimes and be like, all right, I see this going a negative way. I'm just
You're
gonna like
like,
hop
oh,
in.
okay.
Yeah, I'm like, throw me in, coach.
I
So
love
I've
it.
done that. And so it's like, that's the way I approach it now instead of letting it get to me. Cause there's not a ton, because I don't want to be like I'm a big deal, but there's just like a handful. And I always thought about those handful more than I thought about the good things that people have said.
Mhm.
So I've liked going on and providing value, because then I'll get some messages like, oh my goodness, like I posted my, like from when I was overweight to now, and somebody was like, oh my God, that totally helps me. Like I'm gonna be competing in my first show. And it was like a little daunting. And I was like, there you go. Love it. Love it. So approaching it differently, but also no notifications.
Yeah.
I'll do those.
Life hack.
Yeah. I
Life
think
hack.
that goes to show like community, back to the community aspect,
Yeah.
because Reddit is a community in and of itself. Dog eat dog over there. But it provides us like that motivation and that accountability, but also like you can go in and provide valuable insight and just more advice that is
Mhm.
not tearing that person down. And I think that
Yeah.
speaks highly of you as an athlete and an individual yourself. So that's awesome.
Appreciate
Love that.
that. The main reason why I think it's so important is because the people who did it for me before me.
Yeah.
So like
Mhm.
there are so many little tips and tricks or like unwritten rules of bodybuilding that nobody knows about. Like if a girl was going into her first show, she would have no idea that she would like need the amount of things that she would need to bring backstage to have on hand while she's waiting to go on, right? Like no one tells you that. No one tells you like, well, there's been more posts about it, I think recently, but back when I was coming up, no one says like, oh, you have to bring sheets with you so you don't mess up the hotel sheets, or like they
No
don't
one tells you about
say
the shiwi.
She
no, okay,
peanut
I
and
will tell you
Dixie
this. No,
cup.
people told me about that, and I was like, I don't do that. I just like I put
I
toilet paper
hover.
down and I like squat,
Dixie
Yeah.
or
cup
just
for
like
me.
go.
Funnel it.
I
I'm
can't.
a pro hover. Pro
Yeah,
hover.
I'm a hoverer, and also like putting the toilet paper down so like there's no
Yep.
splashes.
Yep.
Every time I use so much toilet paper on show weekends.
Maya's like a mummy,
Hog
just
that toilet.
Yeah,
Your
exactly.
tan is expensive. You don't want little.
I will say this, Protown DIY has been like a game changer for me because I do it myself and then I'm able to like fix it if there are any issues.
Mhm.
So I'm like a big DIY advocate.
Oh, I get so nervous with that shit.
Ew.
I don't know. Just spray my coochie. I can't do it.
You're like, open up.
Yeah,
They're
I'm
just
like,
like,
no,
and here's
Travis.
here's the video for the week. Just
Yeah,
spray
I can't.
my coochie tan.
I people ask me how they're like, oh, like who does yours? And I'm like, no, I do it. And they're like, oh, so you have like a friend with you who doesn't? And I'm like, no, I'm in my like room, like
Dude,
like
that
getting in there.
mobility. That
Yeah,
mobility.
it's the
Wow.
flexibility. I was like, by the time I'm that lean, if I don't have that flexibility, it's an issue. I will say if I was in wellness, it's different because like obviously there is more muscle to like have to get around. But for bikini, I'm like, oh, don't getting in there. But it's helped me. I would say that it gives me less anxiety because I don't have to like make it to an appointment or anything. And then I can fix it myself. But obviously there's like the time commitment of you having to do it yourself
Right.
or your friend having to do it yourself, do it for you. But yeah, no P cup for me. I'm against the P cups
I can't
or
do
the
that
shiwis.
either.
No shiwis.
I said
You
that's
pee in
that
the
could be a
cup, Laura?
bodybuilding every every time somebody comes on, it's like, are you a P cup, a
P cup or
hover, or a
shiwi?
Hover.
girl?
What do you do, Laura? Do you
Yeah,
hover?
I'm a hover.
Hover? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So I
I
do.
always ask people, I'm like, do you normally pee on yourself? Like when you're
Yeah, like
not?
why are you splashing up so much water?
Yeah,
I
like
just
why
was
is it just
How
told,
flowing?
like
crazy.
my first show, they were like, get a Dixie cup. So like I've only competed twice, right? So each time I just use a little Dixie cup. But like, Eric
Yeah.
and I backpack and I shit in the woods for crying out loud, and that's no issue. But for whatever reason, the minute you put a tan
Precisely.
on, it's
I
like,
know.
You're like,
yeah, it's
I'm like,
like a
I
fucking
remember
hose
somebody
in
said it.
there.
And I asked that exact question. I was like, "Do you pee on yourself normally?" And I was like, "Okay, that came out way ruder than I than it needed to." But I'm
It's
genuinely concerned.
legitimate.
There are
Huh?
some things that are just like standard that I didn't know when I was first. Like someone gave me advice when I did my first show and I did my pro tan, where I think that like all of my common sense went out the window, and as I would just listen to what people said. Someone told me to get off my tan after the show to use a Mr. Clean magic eraser. And I fucking did that. I did that. I was like, and then when I
Did it
look back
work?
and I'm like, why would I put intense chemicals all over my body? I was so red. My entire, like, I was stinging in the shower. It was terrible. Obviously, I know better now. But the fact that, like, my common sense is like, oh no, just trust the person that you met backstage who's been doing bodybuilding for years. Like, you automatically think they know more. Obviously that was not the right
Did they
choice.
mean
So
like a scrub daddy, not fucking Mr. Clean? I could see a
no,
scrub
they
daddy,
said
like,
Mr. Clean magic eraser because I went out
Yeah.
and bought it and like I wrote it down on my phone in my notes and then bought it. And I remember my coach was like, Maya, why did you not just ask me? So
That's
yeah.
crazy. That gets
Ugh.
off of like drywall. And
Yeah,
you're like, yeah,
it's
I'll
terrible.
get
That like
the
strips.
tan off my body.
I was so dry for ages, and I'm one of
Oh,
those people who like I put on lotion year round after my showers, like all that stuff. Like I keep myself very moisturized, and I think that goes a long way with like your tan being really good when it comes time for it. But after that, I had to recover my skin for so long. Like I was this whole bounce back period of like getting my skin back to a state where I felt like I wasn't like itchy or like raw. So that's another thing. Like, don't that's this is so I think this is actually a big lesson I learned is like you can be as smart as you are like outside of this, but as soon as you get into bodybuilding, you like you kind of believe all these like gurus and like people in the industry, like please do not lose your common sense when you
Yes.
come into this, because people are like, well, I just went on the drugs. And I'm like, in the real world, if a pharmaceutical company was like, take this, and the other thing, you'd be like, oh no, like I'm gonna actually get some second opinions. I'm gonna think about that. But if it's a guru, I feel like people will do or say or act anyway because of who it's coming from. And I'm like, you need somebody, if it's not you, to like ground you. Like my boyfriend sometimes will reel it in and be like, what? Like, do you like I wanted to keep going with my shows, and he was like, Maya, you had a set show season, you should stick to it. Like
Yeah.
having somebody in your life who isn't like all or nothing, because I am all or nothing, really helps. But if not, like just and you're on your own, like do not lose your common sense. Like sit with things before you make a decision to like hop on anything, do that stuff, because that is all commonplace. And especially when you're first starting out, like you aren't thinking, like you were saying Megan, like about the effects of this down the road. Like, and I think that's why I think also the body work, the blood work helps so much, is because it gives you a clear picture of what this is all doing to you. Because people are like, I feel fine. I'm like, you might feel fine, but are you fine?
Yeah.
You
I
don't
think,
know. And you have no idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about that, you know, because like bodybuilding, it attracts these like addictive personalities in a sense, like perfectionists. Yeah, same. Very
Yeah.
addictive over here. And we have to have that accountability partner. Like Ash, you've said like you've leaned on Eric to say, like, listen, this is my cycle, this is my dosage, hold
Mhm.
me accountable. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like we look at that Anavar and we're like, oh, it's just like
I could do
little
a little more,
candy.
maybe.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, it's
Or
just
like
like
you
a
can
Flintstone
inject just a
gummy, like
little
yabba
bit.
dabba down my throat. Like, let's go.
Exactly.
Yes. Like maybe if I take a
No.
little bit more clan, I might get lean faster.
Oh,
That's
Like,
right.
dude, I've tried that. I legit projectile vomited because I did like 120 in one go. I was like, yeah, fuck it. Like, let's just do a little more. And I was
no.
like,
Wait, that makes me
Mom.
Dude, I
the
remember my
120 in one
first
go just scares me.
I
Oh.
remember my
Fuck.
first cleanse was like diluted in vodka. So like I also felt like a
Oh
bad
yeah.
bitch having vodka. So I was like, let's go. Like
Dude,
doing
No,
my
yeah, that's
cardio.
probably the liquid courage plus. You're like, I'm on
dude,
top
Legit,
of the
legit.
world.
It's like 4 in
that's
the
me
fucking
every
morning, and I'm like
morning.
running around in circles like a little yappy dog, and Eric's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I'm like, Glenn.
I hate that shit. My telmisartan is like alcohol based, and I'm just like in the bathroom in the morning. I'm like, I'm fine. I don't drink
Oh, I don't
alcohol,
like
so I'm
that.
just like,
That scares
that's
me.
enough. I can't take a shot to save my life, and I'm over here trying to just get down telmisartan. Fuck. Oh,
I'm
rough
like,
life.
I'm just trying to do drugs. I don't want the alcohol.
I know. Oh,
I love that meme where it's like, no alcohol for me, just steroids. Thanks.
Yeah.
steroids.
Like it was like, damn, got me good, got me real good.
Dude,
Yeah,
I
it's
sent
so
that.
funny.
I love that. I sent that to my friend Tay, and when we go to EDC, we're gonna put that. You know how people like walk around with like the poles to like,
Yeah, the
yeah, we're
totems.
gonna put that meme on it and just say no, no drugs for me, just steroids.
Just
But
steroids.
love it.
They
Thanks.
have another one that's like the same, but I kind of hit this last year where I was like, I don't know if I can do festivals anymore. I kind of feel like I'm at like my point. But I was what was I thinking? Oh yeah, there's another meme where it's like no alcohol for me, just like it was like just acid or like just like basically festival drugs. And it was also I was like that also
Ketamine.
identifies that. Like I'll be at a thing and they're like, oh my God, you're so healthy, like you're not drinking. And I'm like,
You don't know
yeah,
what's going
You're
on in
just
my
like,
yeah,
body.
I'm really
yeah, really
healthy.
healthy, guys.
That's me. Again,
Uh,
another misconception within the world where
I
they're like,
know.
oh my God, when you're your leanest, like that's why I was like, oh my God, you're so healthy. Like, tell me your plan. I'm like, you don't want it.
Yep.
You don't want to do the things that needed to get me to get here. And I am definitely not my healthiest right now. And I will
Mhm.
straight up tell that to people because it'll be like a 40-year-old mom at the gym telling me like I look good and she wants to follow my plan. I'm like,
Nope. No, you don't.
Yep.
nope, you don't. No,
Mhm.
we don't. um,
Girl.
and I also think that like it's not to say that I don't do this like in the quote unquote healthiest way that I can, but also it's like these sacrifices that I'm making, they're not just for like looking good,
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're going to the Olympia, dude. Like
Yeah.
at
you know.
the end of the day, only like 0.00001% will get there in the healthiest way possible. You have to
That
put your limits. Like this is an extreme sport. So
yeah, yeah. It's
there's
like
ways
the
to
girls who
safeguard
are
it.
like, can I? They when they especially when they first come into it, and they're like, oh my gosh, like they're just like very naive and they don't understand what is required, even if it's not about drugs and it's about like the amount of cardio.
Mhm.
If you cannot stick to your plan in an improvement season, do not come to me saying you want to win your pro card.
Yeah.
Like let's let's just reel it back in. It's like you were saying, Megan, the girl who was saying like comparing herself to like a top Olympian. Because this is a small sport and there aren't that many people, I think that they feel like they're a lot closer in like
Yeah.
closer to those people than they actually are, because they're like, oh, I've been training. Or people who are like, oh my god, my butt is so big, I could probably do wellness. I'm like, have you seen your glutes without fat on them?
Yep.
If not, you don't know. Like you could just have a fat distribution that's like heavier in your
Mhm.
lower half, and that doesn't necessarily mean you should be wellness. Anyways, this is all like I'm like going all these different ways because I feel like there's so many different things that connect to this. But back to the meme about drugs. I feel like that's a really good idea, and I look forward to seeing that picture when you're
Yes,
holding it at
we
EDC.
will do that.
Yeah.
It'll be in
But
November, so I will do it.
Are
I
you going
think
to
that's
EDC Orlando?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
nice.
My
Nice.
sister doesn't watch the podcast, but I'm so excited, so I just need to share it with my friends. I'm gonna buy her ticket and her plane ticket to bring her down. I'm so
Oh,
Oh,
excited.
she'll love that.
I'm so excited.
That is so sweet of you.
for
No,
And
real.
is she gonna know it like a week before or something?
um, well, I'm giving her the tickets for her birthday in July.
Okay,
So
because I was gonna
yeah,
say she's gonna want to get like an outfit,
yeah, oh
so
yeah,
maybe tell her
yeah.
early.
Oh, she has like she's a festy girl,
Oh,
so
good.
she's gonna kill me if she ever hears me say festy girl. But she has all of her fits, so I'm excited for her.
I
Oh,
love
good.
that.
Okay, that's awesome, dude. If somebody did that for me, I'm like not in my festival phase right now. I'm kind of like pulling
Yeah.
back
You'll be
budget
like,
wise and life wise.
yeah.
But if somebody did, I'd be like, I'm in. Let's
Hell
go.
yeah. Let's
Yeah, yeah,
go.
exactly.
You're like, let's fucking go.
That's
No,
such
but
a
I
good
think
present.
that's a good like kind of way to kind of segment back to community and kind of like wrap
Mhm.
things up, where it's like your community can either help you or it can also hurt you. So if you get
For
part
sure.
of the community that's like hardcore, maybe into drugs or not focusing on the fundamentals and creating that foundation, you very
Yeah.
might well have a short career in bodybuilding because your health deteriorates and you get to a certain point where you can't dig yourself out of a hole and then you get jaded and angry and you're like, oh, fuck bodybuilding.
Mhm.
When it's like, okay, no one told you to fucking like take, Diana ball as a female. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one fucking told, like, no one in the right mind should be doing that. But it's like, community is so important when it comes to having the right people around you to encourage you, to help you stay real, to pull your head out of your ass, and to love you and always tell you the truth, even if you don't want to hear it, versus like always being a yes man or a hype woman. Because, like, we've all had our own experiences. Like, when you have the right group of people around you, you can soar, you can fly, and you go
Yeah.
together further because you have like a good, strong community versus the alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Snaps to Ashley for reeling us back in because I was out there. But yes,
But
that was a
yeah,
perfect segue.
I think that's good because I mean, Laura, Ash, and I, like in our little group chat that we have going together, like we've held each other accountable over the past couple months too, like going through like blood work together and like
Mhm.
different protocols that we want to do or different avenues that we want to take. And we'll kind of like in the nicest way possible set each other straight. And at the end of it, maybe we walk away like, oh fuck Ash for like 2 minutes, and then we're like, ah, she loves me. Like she wants to
Yeah.
do this in the best way possible. So it may sting initially, but it's a good sting. It's a good
Mhm.
sting.
Yeah. I actually have a question for you, Laura. I feel like I want to hear more from you because I like your point of view. You've been in this for a long time. What would you say is the community that you've been a part of or are a part of that's had the most positive impact on your bodybuilding career?
Honestly, this.
Yeah, like this.
In the
I
last
love that.
3 years, so I'm sorry if I've been like a little extra quiet. I
Oh,
honestly thought I was gonna faint when we first got on this sitting
What the
here.
fuck?
It's legit. That's why I moved to sit in front of the air conditioner. It's like 120 in my air conditioner.
Oh,
I wasn't shaming you for not talking, but I was like, wow, did I
No,
just dominate this entire conversation? I don't like that.
no.
Maya's a dommy mommy.
Ew, well, it's I don't know
But
why. Oh my god, that can't
no,
become a thing.
I
It's
would
not.
say the like camaraderie between the three of us, like not even just as like a competitor, but like each individually, like being coaches and like growing a business and like Megan's under Jason, but like it's still like her umbrella under him. All of that, like, and not in like a competitive way with one another either. It's always like a supportive, like, I want to be a part of this. I want to see you successful. I want to help, like, contribute. Like, what can I do? It's the same type of like, everybody wants everybody to do well. And like, I think that also being around like people making good decisions and being successful and like also not in like a catty way is so, so empowering and also like impactful on just like personal growth too, because I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast and probably the last couple episodes, something like that. Like off season's always been my like Achilles heel with bodybuilding. I'm the person that can turn inside out like overnight, no problem, whatever, but like never actually get myself to grow to the extent that I need to in off season because of the like lingering eating disorder mentality type of like can't get X amount of weight, can't gain X amount of weight, like you guys were all talking about. Like that was me. I was a person that maintained 10 pounds over stage weight for 10 years, every time I competed until now. And being around other people that have such a positive outlook and success with themselves, like makes you want to do better.
Yes, yes. There's that quote where it's like you're kind of like a combination of like the five people you spend the most time with. And I completely agree. Like who you choose to surround yourself with. There's that other quote where it's like when a flower isn't blooming, you don't like throw the flower out, you repot the flower in a different area and then it can grow. And I could not agree more with that statement because who you choose to surround yourself with, especially within bodybuilding, because it's so small and everybody is very addicted, is hugely has a huge impact on where you go with your career, how successful you are, if you end up leaving jaded, and then when you're down, if you stay down, right? Like, because there's so many like especially with this being a subjective sport, you could be at your highest high, getting second places, like all that stuff, and then be not so great. And like, how do you respond to that? And the fact that you have people you can go to in this community, like this community with Ashley, Laura, and Megan here, like you can go to them and check yourself, or if it comes to like drugs, if it comes to like mindset, all of those things, like needing to grow more, like that is so valuable. And I feel like I have the same in the people that I surround myself with, knowing that if I am in a bad spot, I can go to them and also speak very freely, be transparent about it. Like I don't feel shamed by them to be like, well, you gained too much weight, so you're never going to get back on stage again, right? Like that type of negativity is just like not something that anybody needs. And I think that that's why there's so many like burnouts or like dropouts out of bodybuilding, and like why it comes back to the whole like do your research, because that coach that you start with also helps define the community that you have, because they are like a main pillar in it. And then also like obviously there's tons of things about like setting expectations at home, and like it's hard with relationships because you're so all in, and like I'm sure my boyfriend would like me to not down the line not do this, and well he wants me to pursue my passion, but like if I had more time with him, that'd probably be he would love that. So I think that like setting expectations at home, having that like strong community at home, and then also within the bodybuilding industry, especially with what you had just mentioned, specifically with women, is so helpful. And I want people to know that like in the pro league, once you're backstage, completely different experience. I think that in NPC, a lot of it tends to be catty. A lot of it tends to be like very team based, or like you're only friends with people that you know and like have built relationships with. And then there's obviously the online community where people are building people up. However, it doesn't always translate in NPC to backstage. And I think that that's something that I've heard from people. They're like, wow, like once I got to IFBB, I realized I got backstage and everybody's like friends with each other and supports each other and builds each other up. Like what's going on there? I'm like, I swear people get a rude awakening when you go backstage if you're going to try to be catty with the pros, because they look at each other like, did you not get the memo? We support each other. Like you're giving dirty looks and like we're gonna give it back to you because you're supposed to be cool with us. Like this is such a select group of people. You probably have so much more in common with them than you think, you know, like, and if you're not taking the opportunity to connect with people, like it's not going to be a fun show experience for you. Like I love going backstage mind you, in the beginning, like you're obviously going to be in the zone, like before prejudging, but between prejudging and then after finals, like chat it up, connect with these people. Like they are, again, part of this community and it's niche. So like there's room for everybody to be successful. Why resort to negativity? So that's part of the backstage thing. I just wanted to like give a dose of that. But rolling it back to what we had just said, I really hope that people who are coming up are more careful about who they select to surround themselves with, because bodybuilding can be such a positive thing in your life if you don't make it your whole life, and if you surround yourself with the right people who are going to build you up and also help you become the best version of yourself. And then you can show up as the best version of yourself, for others, etc. Because this industry is clearly growing. Like even just the sign of like them releasing new like IFBB pro gear and having an online muscle wear like thing where you can just like sign up for shows, like all of that are signs. And then like Pittsburgh Pro becoming an expo, like this is growing. There's going to be a lot more people, and the way that the trajectory that we have for the communities that we build and the relationships that we build set the foundation for all of that, and will continue to grow if we are not pushing people away from this sport with negativity. Like I don't want to like anybody to come and see Red and be like, oh my God, I never want to bodybuild because of that. Like they need to see and know that like there are good communities, good people, all of that out there. You just got to find them and like stick with them and solidify those relationships and never let them go.
I
Yeah.
agree 100%. I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any final thoughts or questions, ladies?
I think we got a pretty solid little podcast here. I think this
I know.
was informative. I loved it.
I agree.
Great.
Agree. Maya, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate you coming on.
I'm honored to be on. Thank you. I appreciate that. But being on something that I listened to like during the workday is just like, oh, hey.
Like,
So
I know that bitch.
exactly.
That
I don't always
bitch.
like my voice, so I might not listen to my episode, but I will be listening to all the others.
I hear that.
Yeah.
I don't actually listen to the replay on like Spotify or YouTube because my husband like edits the podcast.
Yeah, it's them. Yeah.
On fucking Monday night, I'm
Yeah, I know.
eating creamy in bed. I'm listening to me, and I'm like, God, I'm such an annoying bitch. Like I hate this. I was like, take a shot every time I say the word like. So I'm trying so hard not to fucking say that word. So now I'm just like, me.
Trying to say
Well,
fuck
I
that,
watch it
but-
back through doing like cardio or whatever. I'm like, we're so funny. Like,
We're so
Laura's
funny.
over there like being so positive, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's like such a dumb bitch. Like I hate this.
I just look at my
You try each other.
Facebook.
Why the fuck did I say that?
Right. And then there's Meg
actually,
with her Celsius, like just
Hey, I didn't wear a bra today, so I can't really.
listen, I got my
just very
Topos
good.
and my Chicos, like we're good for staying hydrated.
both two drinks that I also drank. I do have one last thing actually. I feel like you guys need to have like, because I obviously watched the Real Bodybuilding podcast and all that shit. I feel like you need to have a collection of all of the things that you ask the guests when they come on, because you know how they're like, how many times do you like how many times you switch your towels, your shower
Oh,
towels,
yeah.
or like the standard questions they ask. I feel like
Yeah.
you need to have ones, but for females,
Males
like the
always
one
like
about the P cup on
Oh, I
point.
like that.
On point. I feel like there just need to be a
like
few,
that.
because learning those things is like so niche. Like no one else would
Mhm.
have answers to those questions. Like a Gen Pop would be like, what the
Another
fuck?
one. Like, do you wear underwear with leggings?
Oh,
People
no,
like it's
no,
like,
no.
yeah, no.
Commando
No.
all the time. It looks
Good
weird.
one.
It looks
looks
weird and it
weird.
feels weird.
It's I haven't that's actually one of the ones that I commented on Reddit. I was like, I'm gonna come out very, very transparently
Commando.
here. I am always commando. If you're wearing underwear with leggings, you're just needing to do more laundry. Like I don't understand.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
have the Shiwi, we have the do you go
Under-
commando or
yeah.
do you wear your granny panties? And
Yeah.
then this isn't really female related, but it is a fun question. What's your favorite midnight snack?
Oh yeah.
Ooh, that is a good one. Ooh, okay. I will say this: midnight. I have a creamy, and I fucking love my creamy. Some people are like not on board with it, but I think that the volume that I get for it, it's literally like you would have a protein shake. I usually choose to eat my protein, but I would have that. If I didn't have my creamy, it would probably just be, I'm so standard. I like rice cakes and stuff. Like rice cakes, a little
Like that?
PB
She's good.
and banana. Yeah.
I respect that. I will say I have a creamy every single night because for me, it's easy to get down. It really is. It's not about like feeling
is.
full. It's just like when you have to eat a lot of food, even when you're cutting, like it's easy for me to put it down because it just goes so
Yeah.
smooth. Rise is a really good protein powder for creamies. I'm doing their cinnamon toast crunch, and then I have the Catalina Crunch cereal. So it's like a cinnamon toast crunch, like almost McFlurry thing, and it fucking slaps booty cheeks. So
That does.
I'm gonna
that does
just do a
slap the
shameless
cheek.
plug, not sponsored whatsoever.
Someone needs to like reach out to Ninja or something of the sort to come up with
Honestly,
a version of it that doesn't sound like it's going to take off through your fucking ceiling. Do you know what I mean?
that
It's so
It
loud. It's
it
ridiculous.
is loud. Eric has like his engineering thing because like our motor, like I don't know, like I fucked it up somehow where it like wouldn't be flush when it froze, and so it kind of ran down the blade in the motor. So legit, we like jerry rigged it where we have magnets because we tried to reach out to Ninja, but their customer service was so fucking
Yeah.
backlogged that he just went like fucking operation engineer and like fixed it ourselves. So like it has to be loud because like you're literally grinding ice and like at such a
Yeah.
high speed. So it was like, do you remember the Instylers back in like 2014?
Oh, you mean?
That it's literally like an Instyler
No,
where it's
thank
like,
you.
and it's like so fucking loud and it gives a shit ass curl. Fuck the Instylers.
Yeah. I got some hair lost definitely from those things.
Hair loss. I mean, I don't know why. If it was like a poor people thing, but like we always did the infomercials, my family. So I had the Instyler, I had the goddamn shake weight.
No, you
Oh,
didn't.
girl, I was in my
Yeah.
bedroom. I was like shaking it. I was doing my plyo squats because I was into Blogilates. So that was my fitness start.
What?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Thank God, thank goodness fitness has changed and women are actually like, I feel like it's actually like a trend. Everybody's like, I'm a lifting girl. I lift.
Oh yeah.
I'm a muscle mommy. I'm like, I'm actually very happy with that. Please continue with that because I was so over the like, I'm in my room wearing this thing on a yoga mat, moving
Yeah.
around. Like, not for me.
Mm-mm.
Not for me. Anyways, wrapping it up.
Wrapping it up. All right, guys, we will see you next
Love it.
time. Maya, thank you again for coming on,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about some shit next week.